You know? That was your fault. While Jesus was still speaking, some people came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. Your daughter is dead, they said. All right, now think about this. If you're Jairus, what's going through your mind right now? He's blaming Jesus and go, you know what? You blew it. You took 5 hours to talk to this lady who was dying when my daughter, you healed this lady. My daughter's laying there dying, and you take your time and stop when you could have already been to my house and you could have already touched my daughter and she would have been healed. You blew it. Because right here, I think Jairus had lost all hope. How many of you seen Batman, the new one?
No, I haven't.
All right, I'm not going to ruin it. I'm not going to ruin it. I'm not going to ruin it. I've seen it 3 times. Love the movie. The new one, yes. But in the movie, they talk about hope. They talk about hope in the movie. And right here, Jairus lost everything. He lost all hope. He lost all hope. And then the next little line in the verse was, why bother the teacher anymore? You see, we just read through that, but that was a verbal shot at Jesus. Because basically they're saying, you aren't who we thought you were. You weren't the healer, because she's dead. And so they called him the teacher. Overhearing what they said, Jesus told him, do not be afraid, just believe. I wonder if I was Jairus at this moment, when Jesus said, don't be afraid, just believe. I'm like, Jairus is like, yeah, okay. My whole world has crashed. My daughter's dead. And you say, don't be afraid, just believe? See, at this moment, Jairus is in the same position the woman with the issue of blood was in. Rock bottom. The minute he heard the words, your daughter is dead, his whole world crashed. And now he's hearing, don't be afraid, just believe. Because remember what we talked about last night? We get to this point, and now Jairus' whole world has crashed. He's hopeless. He's lost. He doesn't have anything to do. He is just right for God. He's just where God wants him to be. And Jesus is now saying, don't be afraid, just believe. At rock bottom is right where God wants you. Because faith starts at the end of human limitations. When the world says it's over, it's dead, that's when God says, now let me take over. Because you're right where I want you. Just chill. He didn't let anyone follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When he came into the home of the synagogue ruler, Jesus saw the commotion, the people crying and wailing loudly. Now you got to remember, in this time, in this century, the Jewish people hired mourners. So the people are coming there auditioning probably to be hired to mourn at the funeral of this girl. So there's crying, there's wailing, and he went in and said to them, why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep. And all that crying and all that wailing immediately stopped, and they started laughing at him. After he put them all out, this phrase, a lot of scholars believe, and that this phrase was the same phrase that they used when they're describing Jesus clearing out the temple in John chapter 2. He had to throw them all out. He didn't just say, hey, can you guys kindly leave the building? He probably grabbed them and threw them out. What does Jesus have to clear out of your life for a miracle to happen in your life? Jesus wants to do some awesome things in your lives. Everybody's hands were up here tonight, and you're struggling with something. I was back there watching. You're struggling with something. You want God to do something in your life. Well, what does God have to do? What does God have to clear out? What sin that you're holding on to does God have to clear out before he can do something awesome? Because a lot of us My wife, when we go to a restaurant, she'll say, "Can I have a Caesar salad with, I want you to take the black olives off," or whatever she says, and I want you to put the Caesar salad on the side, and I want you to hold this. And she does that everywhere we go. It's never about what the chef puts on the menu. It's like, "Can you put this on the side? Can you add this? Can you add that?" And see, we treat God like that sometimes, because we say, "I want that unconditional love. I want that awesome stuff, that grace that you give me." But, holding off on sex before marriage, let's put that on the side. Or because I really want to do that, I want all the grace and the mercy and the love, but honoring your father and mother? I don't want that. My parents just ticked me off. I don't want to do that. See, we treat the Bible and we treat God like my wife treats a menu. It can be held, but you can't do that. Because God tonight, He wants to interrupt your schedule by throwing some things out of your life. Not just saying, "Okay, you can go." He's going to grab some stuff and throw you down. He took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with them and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha koum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Jairus is like, "Seriously? She's dead. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. My wife has been here the whole time. She's seen our little girl die. And now you say you're giving us a little hope? You're crazy." Immediately, the little girl stood up. Funeral over. I don't know if you've ever been to a funeral where the person in the casket got up, but that would freak me out. The funeral would be done. And she began to walk around, and she was 12 years old. At this, they were completely astonished, and he gave strict orders not to tell anyone about this, and he told them to give her something to eat. The reason, because Jesus could have, over here at the boat, said, "Your daughter's healed." Done. Because he wanted to do something greater in the girl's life, and Jairus' life, and the mom's life, than just healing a sick little girl. What's a bigger miracle? Healing a little girl that's just sick, or raising somebody from the dead?
That's good.
Because Jesus, His plans for our lives are way up here. And we settle for over here. We settle for way down here. Jesus had something so much greater for you. You see, Jairus thought that right here, with the woman with the issue, was an interruption. But it was really, T.D. Jakes says it like this. He goes, it was more of an interweaving of the two stories. That God put these two characters together, and it wasn't by accident, because both of them were dying. Both of them were in crisis. When the lady got sick was the same year the little girl was born. Both of them, one was the coming generation that was younger and alive and excited, but she was dying. And the other one was losing vision and strength and blood, and she was dying. But Jesus came to give her life. And when He touched the little girl, and He said, "Talitha koum," little girl, I say to you, get up. Bam! Bigger miracle over here than way over there. Because God's plans for our lives are so much more. Because when He died on the cross, it wiped away everything. The cross means everything. See, our lives are a journey. Our lives are a journey. And what we do along the way makes us who we are over there. The stories and the lessons that we learn along the process, along the way, get us to where God wants us to be. But what makes us over here, who God has for us over here, is all this stuff in the middle. And we want to run to over there. And we want to skip the hard times. We want to skip all the bad times in our life. But God stops in our lives, and when we hit rock bottom, when Jairus heard, "Your little girl is dead," rock bottom. right here, his whole world crumbled. But that's right where God wants him to be. Because when you stand from rock bottom, the whole world knows. When you can stand from the worst part in your life and keep going, everybody around you, when everybody who was mourning or who got paid to mourn saw that little girl get up, they knew Jesus was awesome.
That's right.
But that would have never happened if Jairus would have stopped right here and said, just go, Jesus. Leave. But we want to run from point A and through point B to get to C to finish. When I was 16 and 17 years old, some of you guys don't admit this, I'm going to admit it. When I was 16 or 17 years old, I wanted a little boy. When I got married, I wanted a little boy. And I already had his name picked out at 16. I wanted to name him Stephen Adam Shin Jr. And I was going to call him AJ. Now, when me and my wife were dating, we got engaged. We had a little talk, and I said, Sue, if we ever get married, and I'm not kidding you, so if we ever get married, if we have a son, his name will be AJ, Stephen Adam Shin Jr. And if she would have said, no, I don't like that name, I'd have asked for the ring back. I was that serious. We got married and moved to Bushnell, Florida. And on October 23rd of 2001, Stephen Adam Shin Jr. was born. He was everything I wanted in a son. Of course, he looked like his mom. Didn't look anything like me, which that was all right. My wife's hot, so he was going to be a cute baby. And he was the apple of my eye. I don't know what that phrase means, but he was. But, I mean, he was everything to me. And then at about 4 months old, he got sick. I picked him up from his first day at the babysitter. And he looked funny. He wasn't responding to hardly anything I did. And I called Sue on her cell phone. I said, Sue, AJ's not right. We need to take him to the doctor. And he's not really responding to anything that I'm doing. And so she gets home, but first we took him by a lady that goes to our church. She was like a nurse or something along that lines, and get him checked out because Bushnell was in the middle of nowhere, and so it was on a 40 minute drive to the doctor. And she said, you don't need to go to the doctor. You need to take him to the emergency room right now. They called the ambulance, rushed AJ to the hospital. They life flighted him over to the University of Florida. And on Valentine's Day of 2002, AJ was pronounced dead. My whole world at this moment crashed. My life was over. I didn't know what to do anymore. I was a youth pastor. I loved Jesus. But at this moment in my life, I was looking at Jesus going, what in the world are you doing? Because we used to go to Tampa and do missions trips, and I'd see little kids going around 2-3 years old, that nobody was watching them. They're just in their diaper walking around these neighborhoods in Tampa. And I'm like, nobody wants those kids. I wanted mine. You took him. I was angry. I was angry with God. My whole world crashed. I knew exactly what Jairus was going through. And I remember having a conversation with God. I was crying, I was angry, I said all that stuff to him. And as clear as I'd ever heard God speak to my heart, he in an audible voice, it was like 11:30 at night, I thought it was an audible voice. He said, the death of your son will not be the death of you. And from that point on, all the anger I had towards God was gone. Now, he didn't bring my son back. He gave me 2 awesome little boys in Nevada. And I'll tell you how